Okay, this is a demonstration, one of several, on drawing the hand. First thing you have to understand about drawing a hand is the general proportions of the hand. So we're going to do this palm side up. Of course, I'm going to be using this side, thumb towards this side of the page. Okay, we'll start with the palm. The general shape of a palm is rectangular with a curve to it. The thumb is going to be, like I said, on this side, so the first finger that we're going to put in is the middle finger, because the length of the middle finger is equal in length to the length of the palm. Now, when the palm sits, if you ever hold your hand out, notice your hand tends to move away from your body. So if the palm is going up and down vertically as this is, that would mean the wrist would be coming at an angle to it. Somewhere down here all the fingers converge, so when you put in where you're going to have your first finger, where you're going to have your second ring finger, and where you're going to have your pinky, they would converge at a certain spot that you wouldn't see on the hand. Okay, now first I'm going to just talk about the palm itself. There's three sections to it. You have the knuckle pad, meaning the pad that's under your knuckles. I'm going to switch pencils just to make it hopefully a little darker. So you have this pad about midway, which goes, by the way, halfway across. About midway here, meaning on the halfway mark, you have the thumb pad, which for now just draws an oval. And then on this side, you have the pinky pad, which overlaps the knuckle pad. So those are the three major forms there. First finger we're going to talk about is the thumb. The thumb comes off the middle with this webbing that you can see here. The general shape of the thumb is like this as it comes out. Now, proportionally, what happens? Where this first knuckle is from the first finger, the pointing finger, you get the first joint of the thumb. What you're going to find is both halves of the thumb are the same length, and they correspond to the knuckle that comes here, which is like the first one on your index finger. So here's the thumb, here's the two halves being equal. Now there's a bone that is actually the length of the thumb that runs to here and then joins the wrist. Well, the bone doesn't join the wrist, the thumb will join the wrist. Okay, I'm going to do a big version of the thumb just to clarify what I'm talking about. Here's the thumb, and what you have here on the halfway mark, generally, is the thumb pad. The knuckle comes here, and if it's a female, you usually just indicate it as sort of an arrow type of shape where the knuckle is. And if it's a guy, you would square it off. Okay, so now we have basically a thumb, and as far as the nail is concerned, the nail goes halfway on the first upper digit of the thumb. So here would be the nail. Here's like where you get those wrinkles, and here's the pad. Now everything with the hand deals with arcs, so we're going to start with the fingers. The first finger I'm going to put in is going to be the middle. Why? Because everything gets kind of keyed off of that one. Fingers taper as they move away from the palm. especially female fingers. Men much less, they have more stubbier ends. Okay, now, each section basically is about a third of the length of the previous, meaning this to this is about a third longer than this to this, and same thing here. Now on an arc, it'll help you place the next finger, which would be the index finger. Also, I might say this is like ideal proportions. It doesn't quite come up as high as the middle finger. Again, use the arc. But you notice the thumb comes to. Okay, so now you've got two fingers on, and you notice they're tapering. Now the ring finger, depending on the person, sometimes the ring finger is longer, like in my hand, the ring finger is a little longer, but ideally you tend to think of it as exactly the same as the index finger. So it's on the same arc. And again, the knuckles, meaning the sections of it, tend to be on the same arc too. Now, if you notice the palm is sloping, remember I said it has a curved top, and it slopes towards the pinky side. So, the pinky is your short finger, and on an arc only comes up to this section of the ring finger. Part of that is because it's set much lower than the other fingers, meaning where it joins into the palm. You can see that. You can see it's a real drop. I don't know if you can see that, but if you can look at your own hand and you can see it's a real drop. So there's the pinky, and again you do the, I just do it by eye, because like I said, how can you measure really a third shorter? Just do it so it looks right. Okay, now we got the palm. I'm just going to change the angle a little bit on this bone so it joins the... Okay, so now we've got, and here would be the wrist, and on this side you got the wrist bone. So we've got the basic proportions of the hand in this position. Next I'm going to do the hand in motion. The first thing you got to think about when you do a hand in motion is how it opens and closes. It's important to realize that your index finger, your pointer finger, comes out first if you had a fist, and the pinky closes first and the index is the last. Not only that, but the pinky moves towards the center as it closes, so they don't line up like piano keys. So we're going to draw a 3/4 hand, and using what we just learned. Okay, so here's the palm on the pinky side, meaning this is the pinky side, and again it's like a block. And again, the wrist and the arm are a slight angle to it, meaning this is going this way and this is going this way. Okay, so here's the fingers, and first we're going to start, because we're on the pinky side, we're going to start with the pinky, which basically you tend to think of these two sections usually as one group, unless the person's doing this type of thing. But in general, these move the same way, and the real change of direction happens at these knuckles. So here we have the pinky rising up, and then here's the other section, and it's only a very slight difference, and again it's pointing more towards the center. By the way, I'm also thinking like where the next finger is going to start. Now the ring finger and the middle finger tend to do the same thing. We'll talk more about that in a second. But here's the ring finger, which would be fitting back in here. And right about here would be the middle finger. And last but not least, and by the way, you notice these are on an arc. You notice these are on an arc. It's very important, otherwise your hand looks clumsy. And again, the arc is here, so the first finger, which is extended, the index finger, will be right about there. Here's the pad. Here's the thumb coming off. From here again, you find the length of the thumb. And from here you can see the length of the thumb. So here we have basically a hand doing something. Okay, now I said that I was going to talk about how the middle and the ring finger move together. When cartoonists tried to do animation, it was too hard to do all first fingers. I mean all 5 fingers, or 4 fingers, as it is. Okay, it was too hard to do all 4 fingers, because when you're animating, you know, it's just harder to draw it. So what they did was they simplified it and made the first 2 well, not the first 2, made the 2 middle fingers as 1 finger, which is why Bugs Bunny and most cartoons, they only have 3 fingers. They also simplified the palm. Rather than making it a block, they decided to go with it as a circle. And they kind of thought of the fingers as being in a mitten. So here's the pinky, but again it's sort of like almost as if it's in a mitten. Here's when you group the other 2 fingers together as 1, so now you've got 1 finger that's folding on itself. This is going to be the same pose, but again, they still use the arcs, of course, because that's the way you do fingers. But this way you get a cartoon hand. And then, by the way, you know, the same thing. This is to here, this is to here. And then to give it a little more depth, and by the way, they wouldn't emphasize the bone, so they keep it round. But also to give it more depth, they would have these characters wearing almost like little gloves, so that you have a cuff that would tell you which way the form is moving in space. Meaning it's coming, if it's going this way, it's coming towards you. Okay, so that's sort of the explanation of cartoons, but it's good to know. Alright, now we're going to talk about fists, because anyone who draws superheroes knows you have to draw a lot of fists. So first we're going to do what happens front view, meaning dead on, when you have a fist. Okay, so here is a fist is like a block. So again, we're starting with not the palm, but the whole shape of the block, meaning at its basic level, this looks like a block. You know, you got the thumb coming off, that kind of takes, but it's basically a block. Halfway across is where the fingers are going to fold. Now, like I said, by the way, this is the thumb side. This is going to be like one of those, hey, right on. So anyway, like I said, the pinky folds inward, so your fingers do not line up like piano keys. They instead all kind of radiate from a certain spot in the wrist. and it makes them look more lifelike. There's the first finger. And notice they're all radiating down to this point, and so they look more articulated. And then this basically, as you can see, would be this section. You're not seeing the lower ones, which would probably meaning this part of it, because it's kind of underneath. Okay, now the thumb, when it's in this position, if you look at your own, generally takes up about to where the end on this side of the middle finger is. So this would be the thumb, and it's folding on itself. Both sections are the same length, so now you got this part and this part, and now here's where you can draw the lower digits. The first finger, though, a lot of times, especially in comics, you kind of like lift it up a little. So whereas these guys are all doing this, the first finger is a little more forward, so it catches, its underplane is here as opposed to here, and it gives it better movement. And again, here's the nail going halfway. And here's, you know, this folding on this, and so now we've got generally a fist. Right on, brother. Okay, now we're going to do the fist on a side view where you're seeing it pinky side, like we had done the other demonstration. So the hand is like a block, basically. You know the pinky's shorter, and the first thing I always try to do is get the general shape. Meaning you're thinking of it as a shape first. It's much easier to put the fingers in then. Okay, so we're going to start with the pinky. It's the shortest of the fingers, so okay, there's the pinky. Now I got the ring finger. Which is a little, you know, longer. Drops down a little more. Now we get the middle finger. Okay, and so far these guys are on an arc, but here's again where the first finger, the index finger, you want it to kind of like be sticking up a little bit. Okay, and then you got the thumb coming across. You want that overlap, you don't want them to exactly touch. And then the underside of the thumb. Got this, you got the folds of the palm. So now you've got a fist. And if you were, you know, these are underplanes, so you can make them a little bit darker. Okay, so that's, you know, that's the fist for you.